Let's bring in a guy who I saw pop up for a minute there on NFL Network earlier today discussing this news, covered the Jets closely for many years out there in the New York, New Jersey area. My NFL Network colleague, another member of the Insiders, which you can catch tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. Mike Garafolo joins us on the show. Mike, I'll just toss it to you. This was certainly something that I think we all had on our radar as a possibility at some point toward the end of the season, with Aaron Rodgers flat out saying, hey, if this doesn't work out, we're all gone. I don't think many people saw it coming after week 5. Give me the latest. How did we get here with Robert Saleh out as Jets head coach?
Yeah, I mean, Robert Saleh himself certainly didn't see it coming. How did we get here? Well, the Broncos game, I think, was bad, right? And if Zerline makes the field goal, they're 3-2 right now. Does this happen? Probably not. But that's how fine the line is between being employed and being a former head coach in this league, which you can avoid with better. I mean, Robert Saleh, there were a lot of questions. Let me get this. There were a lot of questionable moments as I've covered this team where I'm like, probably needed some better management in situations. So it's not surprising that he was maybe on notice. It is surprising because if they win on Monday, and it's a home game against the Bills, who they beat at home last year, they're in first place. Like, a lot of times it's, all right, we're 2-6 and the rest of the division is running away and we expected to be in the mix. I just, to me, and then Woody Johnson's going to speak here shortly. I'll be on that conference call to see what the ambassador's answer is going to be on this one, which seems to be the tweet du jour today about how he was referred to as Ambassador Johnson by the Jets website, which, by the way, I would say you cannot overstate how much losing that game against the Vikings in London mattered in this whole situation. So it's I was definitely surprised that it happened this early. I'll put it that way.
Robert Wood Johnson IV is how he's referred to in the Jets media email. Yeah. That conference call occurring at the bottom of this hour, so 27 minutes away, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be interesting to hear, Mike, how exactly Woody addresses the thought process, because as you said, and listen, we're all judged on the results on the field. Everybody's judged by their performance. Robert Saleh, I think, it was well documented, trying to have more input on the offensive side of the ball, which in turn logically means he's less involved with the defense. It became harder, I think, at times for anybody to say, hey, Robert Saleh is doing this. That's why he needs to continue to be the head coach of the football team. Yet, they're a field goal away, and as bad as that game was, as bad as the weather was, they're winning, but for a missed field goal at the end of the game. I'll just be interested to hear why Woody believes this move at this moment creates the type of sea change that he apparently thinks it does. Because you saw the statement, it was, this team is talented, we got a tough interim coach, that's going to take us to the heights. We got 12 games to show it, and if they lose Monday night to the Bills, it's already edgy in New York. It's going to get that much worse.
What was the phrasing in the hold on, I'll find it here. Jeff Ulbrich will serve as our interim head coach for the Mariners. He's a tough coach who has the respect of the coaches and players on this team.
Yeah.
I can't help but right. You can't help but apply that to Robert Saleh. And I know that there were players along the way. Mekhi Becton, I just saw this as I came on, and please double confirm this, so I'm not speaking out of turn, because it was a blog that, and maybe he deleted it, I don't know. But Mekhi Becton tweeted the guy at the funeral who said, I just showed up at my enemy's funeral just to make sure. Remember that whole
my biggest hater's funeral? Just to make
something
sure
like that.
He was dead. Yes, I recall. Paraphrasing slightly.
Yeah, so you'll have a list of guys who, if they were speaking freely, which clearly Mekhi Becton is doing, would tell you that, I don't know, he appears to have deleted it. So would tell you that they didn't love Robert Saleh as a head coach. There are a lot who would, though. The quarterback is certainly going to be the most interesting one, and apparently he's pushed his weekly appearance on the Pat McAfee show till Wednesday, so we won't hear from him till tomorrow. I'm sure Woody Johnson is going to say it was his decision alone. I would think, considering how much that they have bent over backwards for Aaron Rodgers and signed players and hired coaches. So you see Nathaniel Hackett in the background, how much that they have brought in over the past year plus for Aaron Rodgers, that you would at least get his take on the matter. I don't know. I mean, the shove during the Patriots game, I thought that was way overplayed.
Yes.
I thought that was two guys just enjoying the moment. I think that's it right there. Good job, everybody. So I think that was overplayed. However, the body language from Rodgers, some of the way that the answered a few questions, I think he was probably not sold on how everything was being run, period. Now you flip that, and if you get Robert Saleh on right now and say, do you think you were justifiably fired? He would tell you, I haven't had a quarterback for the first 3 years of being a head coach, and I got one for 6 games total. Well, not even 6 games, 5 and 4 plays. That's all I really got to show what I am as a head coach. Obviously, Woody Johnson felt like things weren't going to change, made the move. Now, I don't know that you can give a complete grade.
Anybody who's been around Aaron Rodgers, certainly his coaches, know he has a tendency to use a blunt word, complain. In other words, if things aren't going well, he's happy to tell other people, hey, this isn't right. This person's not doing their job. So to the extent that it's anybody thinking Aaron Rodgers like stormed into Woody Johnson's office and said Robert Saleh needs to go, I wouldn't anticipate it that. I do believe that to the extent, if any, that Aaron Rodgers thought perhaps there was a leadership change needed, he had a variety of different ways that he could have made that clear without making any type of demands. And look back at the history of head coaches with Aaron Rodgers. He gets, early in his career, obviously he's drafted under Mike Sherman, who's there his rookie year. But then Mike McCarthy comes in, the guy who had been on the San Francisco staff. Mike McCarthy didn't make the choice to go with Alex Smith. That would be ridiculous. Offense coordinators don't do that, but was on that staff when they took the other guy. He comes in. Those two have a great partnership. They win a Super Bowl. They go to the playoffs over and over and over again. In those final few years, it was the Aaron in different ways kind of making comments to various people and making clear that he thought we would do something different. He gets Matt LaFleur in. We quickly learned that Aaron didn't really have any input in that, but that ends up being a good partnership. And for 2 years, they win a couple of MVPs. Then Aaron, for reasons that had nothing to do with LaFleur, decides to move on. And the image I can't help but think of, Mike, is Robert Saleh, along with other members of the Jets organization, in California, at Aaron's house. Go back and read the quotes from both of them about those initial meetings and how well they got along and why Aaron bought into Robert Saleh here. To think that a year and change later we're at this point and it's Robert Saleh is gone and now, hey, we're taking our shot here for the next 12 games and hoping this works. It's a fascinating kind of thread that all revolves around one guy who now needs to step up and play his butt off with Devante Adams or without him come Monday night against the Bills. They're going to be 2-4, and there's not a whole lot of places they can go.
No, and it doesn't change the offense, right? None of this changes anything offensively. These guys are out of sync. They're out of rhythm, which is surprising because of how much time Aaron Rodgers spent. I'm still waiting. Has nobody tied it? Nobody tied like they're out of sync because he missed the 3 days of minicamp or 2 days or whatever it was.
You did now. We'll pull that quote out and make sure that gets tweeted. Brockman, you're on it.
No, but he certainly spent enough time this offseason. And I watched him in training camp and how dialed in he was with so many players. I just thought that the rhythm and the chemistry, I mean, I guess we can go back to the sideline spats with him and Garrett Wilson during training camp where they tried to downplay that, but there was certainly a number of instances of that and say these guys are not on the same page. So firing the head coach is not necessarily going to change that. Now, maybe it motivates you to work that much harder on getting but it's not like they haven't been working on it already. So they've got to figure it out on offense. They've got to figure out a way to get on the same page and to start clicking, because the way that they got off to slow starts the last couple of games and really a slow finish against the Broncos as well is just not going to get it done for this team in the way it's supposed to be built. So we'll see about the offensive side of the ball. For Jeff Ulbrich, and Tom, you do the Senior Bowl every week, so you know how important it is. Mm-hmm. And they've changed the format within the last couple of years to allow guys who haven't been head coaches before to get head coaching experience. So Jeff Ulbrich was the head coach and got rave reviews from the folks involved down there with how he structured things, how he ran things. I went back and found that clip of him at his post-game press conference after the Senior Bowl, talking about how it forced him to think about things that you don't think about as an assistant, the bigger picture, how things are structured. It is different doing it at the Senior Bowl than it is in the NFL as head coach of the Jets with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback after they just let go of Robert Saleh. So here come the lights for Jeff Ulbrich, who I like a lot. I think the world of, and I think a lot of defensive players think highly of him there. Players on both sides of the ball, but certainly his defensive players. Now let's see what he can do as a head coach.
Prior to this move today, Mike, and I posed this question to Rich yesterday, I spent time on Sunday into Monday pondering, would a trade for Devante Adams fix the New York Jets? And, the simple answer is no. They've got other issues involved, which obviously Woody Johnson agrees with that by making a change at the top. But what it would do is it would give Aaron Rodgers the guy to which it sure seemed like he was trying to throw the passes in that game. In other words, there were, by my rough count, 10 times where Rodgers, for as much as he couldn't move, okay, that knee was obviously a problem. Then he twists the ankle. He was in the pocket as much as we've ever seen Aaron Rodgers. But he was snapping off throws into tight windows, and there were about 10 times in that game where he threw it, and it's within a millimeter of the linebacker's outside shoulder, and it's the one to Lazard in the end zone. It's the one to Mike Williams at the end of the game. These are all plays and balls he's thrown to Davante Adams. He knows Davante Adams historically has caught those. When you're throwing them to Lazard or Mike Williams or Garrett Wilson, it's that little bit that's the difference. And I guarantee Rodgers after the game is thinking, Davante would have caught a couple of those.
I don't know. I just with all I mean, you're already firing a head coach because, and this was the message, our roster is more talented than our record shows. So you're going to add more talent there, another piece, give up more pieces going forward. Hope that his personality meshes. Hope that Garrett Wilson now doesn't go like this. Because, I mean, maybe it helps him, right? Because it's another guy that the defense has to pay attention to. Fine, I get all that part. But will it help him to be like, I thought I was supposed to be the guy here. I thought I was the one that you guys were going to feed. And the way that when I covered that Patriots game, they had to get him in the end zone that night. And Rodgers even admitted after the game, I made the mortal sin of a quarterback of predetermining where I was going with the football. And thankfully, it ended well in a touchdown. But that's how badly, because the play before he didn't get in, he slammed the turf, gets back up, gets in the huddle, and he throws it to him and he get in the end zone. Like, if you're not getting that kind of commitment from everybody in the building. I talked to people, it was like, he had to get in the end zone that night. If you're not getting that, now somebody else is now the shiny new toy, you wonder how that's going to affect him. I don't know. We talked the other day or yesterday on the Insiders. I said I think the Bills are still the team that would benefit most from Devante Adams, but I understand there's a lot of moving pieces for a number of teams here. I'm going to ask Woody Johnson in 15 minutes, flat out, about that, and just whether he thinks that needs to be done at this point. I'd be curious to see what his response is on that one.
And it's certainly a situation that continues to be, it's alive. At minimum, it's alive for the Jets. It's alive for some other teams as well. But you said the moving parts. It's about certain teams like the Bills would need the Raiders to eat money, which they don't want to do. Other teams may not be offering the type of compensation, knowing that this is basically a 12-game rental plus playoffs here. With the Jets, they don't play till Monday night. So you do have an extra day before the thrust of their practice schedule would begin on Thursday here. So these next 24 to 48 hours are big. And I really do believe, Mike, we'll see the Jets come out and play well on Monday night. And I say that for no other reason than the fact that when we've seen other teams take over or have interim head coaches take over, particularly ex-players, which Jeff Ulbrich has won, that first game, I always say it's the placebo effect. Guys think something is different. We got a fresh start here. We saw it with Antonio Pierce last year. We saw it with Jeff Saturday. Went into Vegas, won his first game. They didn't win any other games, but for that one game, it felt different. When Andy Dalton starts against the Raiders this year, it feels different. Head coach, quarterback, the two spots you can do it. The quarterback, you're not going to do it right now. With Aaron Rodgers, the Jets fire the head coach. And we'll see what happens. On one other subject here, Mike, game last night, which we should probably get around to talking about, is the two-time defending Chiefs. They're playing with a bunch of guys who were given up on by other teams, former Chiefs who now have come back. It's Kareem Hunt runs for 100 yards. Juju has well over 100 yards. Mecole Hardman makes a couple of big plays in that game. From what you've seen from the Chiefs over 5 weeks, in which, let's be clear, they are 5-0, is this a team that is capable of sustaining this and figuring out like the Chiefs seem to every year, regardless who's on the field?
Yeah. Sorry, funny tweet just came across. I'll send it to you.
Send it to us. Send it to all of us.
No,
Put it on the group thread.
No, this is for the group thread only. What was the question? Oh, the Chiefs. Can they sustain this? Yes, they can, because their coaching staff is outstanding, right? And it's not just give Matt Nagy and Andy Reid all the flowers for the offensive side of the ball. Give Steve Spagnuolo flowers for what he's doing defensively, which is what he always does defensively. I feel like he's even in more of a groove with what to call situationally. Pressure sometimes, make them think pressure and pull out sometimes. He's done an incredible job. But also, like, their assistant, Dave Tobe, we got to give credit to special teams, all the way down to my guy David Merritt, who coaches the defensive backs there, who's done a great job there. So yes, they can sustain it because they've got a coaching staff that's really humming right now, and you could see that. You could see the way they're scheming things up, and basically ahead of, well, we lost this guy, so how do we now, and they had Carson Steele as the lead back for one game, and then all of a sudden turned it over to Kareem. I mean, they said, like, oh, Kareem showed up. Kareem already looks impressive. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So he'll carry the ball, like 8 times a game for the
27 carries last night.
Like he was there the whole offseason.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Great job. Like, I give him all the credit in the world for showing up in that kind of shape. And also the motivation. He wants to win a ring with that team. So it's good to add that. Like, that's what you have to do as you're defending. You have to figure out which pieces you can keep in place that are going to continue to be motivated, that want that next ring. The old Tom Brady, what's your favorite ring? The next one. And what guys you can add in certain spots to give you a jolt and will be part of the chemistry there. A guy that has been there before, made a lot of sense. Heard the stories on the air last night about how he was jumping up and down and so excited when they called him after Pacheco went down. So they've got the talent. They really do. They've done a great job putting a talented roster out there that can sustain some key injuries. And from a coaching staff perspective, they're doing a great job.
Last thing for you, Mike. The team that lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year, the 49ers, they're 2-3. We know they haven't had Christian McCaffrey. We know that they've been banged up, and the 49ers seem to every few years go through one of these cycles where it just seems like everything is going wrong. But they got a lot of their guys back right now. Thursday Night Football, 49ers against Seahawks, has the feel, even though it's a 3-2 team versus 2-3 team, it has the feel of a really, really big game in a wide open division. What do you make right now of the state of the NFC West?
Yeah, I got to look back, and maybe it's just in my head. I feel like they've played 4 or 5 Thursday night games, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's like 2 in Seattle, and it's always close, right? And so it just feels like it's going to be another one of those there. It's going to come down to a late field goal or something like that. And I may be rolling in some Sunday night games that I thought were maybe on Thursday. But this one feels like it's going to be an ugly knockdown, drag out. Who can make the play? Who's going to kick the field goal at the end? Which, like, we talked about, the Jets. You can talk about the 49ers, who you're talking about right now. If they have a kicker the other day, they don't have to go for it on 4th and 23 or whatever it was, kick the field goal. Maybe that game turns out differently. The Giants had a game without a kicker where they probably win if they have a kicker. So maybe it comes down to another field goal here, which would be fitting for this team. San Francisco, it's like they're going to be so well coached, and they've certainly got enough talent. They've lost some key pieces, but like, Kyle Shanahan's going to figure this out. I'd still say that they're the team to beat in the NFC West. The Mike McDonald situation, got to change those guys' names. The Mike McDonald situation as a first-year head coach, and this sounded a lot better when they were 3-0, but as a first-year head coach, apparently has impressed folks with how locked in he is. Like, everything is kind of really on point. Hadn't shown things that you would expect of a rookie coach, where like, he doesn't really understand the flow just yet. He'll figure it out. Like, he's been locked in as if he's been a head coach for 10 years. So this is a key spot for him. Short week with this team coming in. Let's see how the Seahawks respond after a game where I really felt like the Giants went back and have sort of gone back to the way that they played things a couple of years ago when Brian Daboll was the coach of the year and they were so successful, which is, let's not try to do too much, right? Let's just try to be who we are on offense. They only took a couple of shots down the field. They hit one or both of them, I'm trying to remember. But it was more about playing safe and not making mistakes. And when teams execute that way in the NFL, you don't want to do that for the long haul. That's why last year they really tried to open things up and it didn't work. But they're back to doing what has made them successful with a smart game plan, a safe game plan. And the Seahawks just had trouble stopping that. And certainly the field goal, give them all the credit for the way that they spotted that on film and executed that. I thought when both guys held down the guards there, I thought that was a penalty, and it's been proven ever since that that's not. You can push down if the guy's already down. So they spotted that on film, and what a job by them to pull that out of the key spot.
And did it without Devin Singletary and Malik Neighbors on the road in Seattle. There's something to be said for that too. Big game for Geno Smith on Thursday night as well. Mike, I'm gonna let you run. You gotta grill Woody Johnson here. So best of luck getting some answers. If you get anything, break the news, and then come back on the show from the golf course if you can. Appreciate it.
It's a little chilly out here today. I wish I was on the golf course. If I was, would have been an even madder scramble home, Tom, to get in front of the camera to do some breaking news for NFL Network. Cheers, buddy.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.